Dust. It had been 25 days since Ellen had come and left. Even the weight was gone, leaving nothing of Ellen but the pain. Pain so ubiquitous that Rachel could not remember feeling any other way. It was Saturday morning. Leah was spending the weekend with Cynthia, and Rachel was grateful for this time to focus on her work. She worked, as she often did, from the comfort of the living room sofa. It was a beautiful piece of furniture, with a beechwood frame and tufted mahogany leather, exquisitely hued. It weighed nearly 200 pounds. They had purchased it years ago in heady anticipation of a glorious future that would demand a well-appointed home and heirloom furniture. With an eye toward practicality, they had treated the sofa to be impervious to the abuses of young children. Rachel's fingers buzzed over the keys of the MacBook cradled in her lap. The machine felt warm against her legs. Casey Musgrave's merry-go-round played from the living room speakers. Rachel hit submit on her work and prepared to move on to the next document when she was interrupted by a question from Joseph. "Can I read you something for a second?" he asked. Click. Type. Click. Her eyes didn't leave the screen. "How does this sound?" He read, "According to the invoice below, I was charged full price for items that were on sale at the time of purchase, the blazers and a few others that have slipped my mind. I suppose it could be because I also applied a coupon code at checkout, but there was no indication on the site, with the code, or at checkout that the usage of one precluded the application of another. Please let me know if there has been a mistake on my part or how the overcharge can be corrected. Also, it has been more than a week since I placed the order, and I still see it is processing. Any idea when I can expect to receive my clothes?" He looked up from his laptop. She looked up from her screen. She nodded briefly. "It works." She returned to her screen. Click. Type. Click. "Okay, I'll send it," he said. He returned to his email. "Thanks." Rachel was midway through her third document when she felt something collapse beneath her fingers. She stopped typing and looked down at her hands. She'd broken a nail. She didn't want it to catch on the keys, so she began to tear away at the jagged edge with her thumb. She sighed. "What is it?" Joseph asked. He sat at the bar. Around him, discarded papers, pens, and a half-empty soda can spread like a solar system of litter. He was watching her. She shook her head. "It's nothing. I've just broken a nail is all." "Oh, sorry," Joseph said. The screen of his laptop illuminated his face. His eyes in the light were a brilliant blue. He didn't break their gaze. So she did. She wasn't in the mood. "Aaron," Joseph said, "will you get me a soda from the fridge, please?" Rachel saw Aaron sprawled in the corner of the living room, headphones plugged into his ears, playing on his phone. She said to Joseph, "You have a soda sitting right there already." "It's gone flat, and I want something cold." Rachel looked back at Aaron. He hadn't budged. Probably couldn't even hear Joseph over the music or whatever he was listening to. Joseph shouted, "Aaron!" And Rachel saw Aaron jump and yank the headphones out of his ears. "What?" he asked. "Get me a soda from the fridge, please. This is the second time I've asked you." "Sure, one sec." And he returned to his phone. "Now!" Joseph yelled. Aaron dropped his phone and headed for the garage where they kept sodas. Rachel stifled her frustration. She was tired of seeing Aaron on that phone 24/7, but she was equally tired of Joseph yelling at the kids. She turned her attention back to her work, but could hear Aaron rummaging around in the garage, which meant he hadn't bothered to shut the door behind him. Again. A moment later, she heard the fridge door shut, and then Aaron call out, "What's the Vitamix still doing out here? Are we ever going to open it?" Rachel continued to type, eyes glued to her screen, silently willing Aaron to not repeat the question. "You guys made such a big deal about buying it, and it's just been sitting here for a month." That did it. A key turned inside her, a door opened, and something too big to hold dropped and hit the ground, shattering to pieces all over again. She froze. She was dimly aware of Aaron sweeping back into the room with a cherry Coke in his hand. He passed it to Joseph. Joseph popped the tab. Then she heard Aaron again, insistent. "Aren't we going to use the Vitamix, Mom?" And Joseph began screaming again. "Stop it, Aaron! Enough! Can't you take a hint? Just be quiet!" Was it a minute later? 2? 10? When Aaron stormed out of the room and up the stairs? She couldn't tell. It was when he slammed the door that shook the ceiling that knocked Rachel back together again, precariously. She looked down at her hands. They had fallen to her side, and she noticed, with the clinical impartiality of death, how pale and still they looked against the deep mahogany of the sofa, like two crumpled doves. Her eyes drifted to the motes of dust that swirled at her feet in the silent light over their gleaming floors. She heard Joseph's heavy tread as he crossed the room. She felt the sigh of the cushion as he sat next to her. He touched a faded and empty hand. "I'm so sorry," he said. She didn't move. "Don't be. It's nothing you did."